The man standing in the shadow of the doorway turned up the collar of his overcoat and stamped his numb feet gently on the damp stones. In the distance, he could hear the sound of a train pulling out of the Stazione Centrale and wished he was riding in it, lounging back in the first-class compartment on his way to Palermo. Perhaps, after this job was done, he would be able to take a holiday in the sun. That was, of course, if they would let him. It never seemed to occur to them that a man might like to go back to his home occasionally. Milan was no good. Too dry and dusty in the summer. In the winter, these damnable fogs rolled in from the plains and rice fields, damp and cold, and bringing the smoke from the factories with them. It was getting misty already. In another hour, you wouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face, let alone anything else. That meant that Buonometti and Orlano wouldn't be able to see what they were doing. There would have to be another night of watching and waiting in the cold. He had no patience with it. If this Englishman had to be killed, let him be killed, easily, quickly. A dark stretch of pavement, a knife under the ribs, a slight twist of the wrist to let the air inside the wound, and it was done. No fuss, no trouble, practically no noise. Whereas this... His gaze travelled up the dark facade of the office building across the street to the single lighted window on the 4th floor. He shrugged resignedly and leaned against the wall. 1 hour or 2, what difference did it make? What did they care if he got pneumonia? Only once during the next 25 minutes did he move. The footsteps of a stray pedestrian echoing along this deserted business street caused him to shrink back into the shadow. But of a passing policeman he took no notice, and grinned to himself when the uniformed man seemed deliberately to avoid looking his way. That was one advantage in working for them. You didn't have to worry about the police. You were safe. He straightened his back suddenly. The solitary light had gone out. He stretched his cramped muscles, adjusted the brim of his hat, and walked quietly away towards the telephone booth at the end of the street. 2 minutes later, his work for the night was finished. The door of the office building opened, and 2 men came out. One of them turned to shut the door behind him. The other did not wait. With a muttered "Arrivederci," he crossed the road and disappeared in the direction of the station. The man who had shut the door turned and stood there watching him out of sight. He was a stoutish, middle-aged man with rounded shoulders and a way of holding his arms slightly in front of his body as though he were trying perpetually to squeeze through a very narrow opening. That posture had been his life. He had squeezed his way by, rigid yet without dignity, an ineffectual, apprehensive man who had fed his self-respect on dreams and always satisfied it. He felt in his jacket pocket, lit a cigarette, rebuttoned his overcoat, and started to walk in the opposite direction. At the first corner he hesitated. On his right, a little way down the main thoroughfare, the words Caffè Faraglio in neon tubing glowed through the fog. His hesitation was only momentary. He turned right and crossed to the cafe. He found a table near one of the heating stoves and ordered a caffè latte and a strega. The spirit he drank at a gulp. Then he took an envelope from his pocket, dropped his hands below the level of the tabletop, and drew a thick roll of 100 lira notes from it. He counted them carefully, there were 25, and transferred them to a wallet. Then he drank his coffee, paid the waiter, and went.